So real quick shout out to PrimeXBT. As you guys know, these streams have been sponsored for over a year from PrimeXBT. So if you want to support me, you want to support the editor who does these amazing edits and is the guy getting you these condensed streams out every day after the original stream, and all the memes and the joke outtakes and all the funny pictures of me looking like ET. This is how I pay the editor. The money that I get from people signing up to Prime, I use to pay for the editor. So if you want to help me out, sign up to the link in the description for PrimeXBT. Use that link, then input code MAIN50 before you deposit any money. And then after you've deposited, you can start trading along with me. It's no KYC. You can trade Forex pairs there, gold. You can trade the S&P 500, as well as obviously a ton of crypto stuff, all with crypto, no KYC. So if you want to support me, that's the best way to do it. Thanks to the Prime team. So let's get into the video now. So it's been a little while since my last stream. I couldn't even tell you when the last one was. All I know is that I probably told you so. Can't be for sure, but I'm pretty sure I told you so. But the analysis we had on the dollar, and then consequently the bearish bias we had on ES, gold, silver, Euro USD, GBP USD, bullish bias on dollar CAD, USD JPY, all of that played out over the last couple of weeks. It's been a pretty slow month for crypto. I actually think that there is a lot better volatility and just cleaner trading conditions outside of crypto right now. Obviously, there's always something happening in crypto. There's always some meme coin that's going to go up. There's always some this, always some that. But I primarily trade the majors. I'm primarily trading Bitcoin and Ethereum. And the volatility and just the trading environment in general has just not been that good. I think gold, silver, the dollar, much cleaner than Bitcoin and Ethereum right now. So let's take a look at Bitcoin here to begin with. So if you remember, last kind of range that we were working in was here. So we had the sweep at the lows here, and then I had a bullish bias up until this bearish order block, and then Trader Main 101. We're looking for the lower high of this down leg, right? If this is a downtrend here on the H12, we're looking for the lower high to form within this order block. And yeah, it was choppy up here, but the lower high ended up forming here. You can actually see here we had an H12 SFP within the H12 bearish order block, which then created this H12 breaker. And then within this H12 breaker, that's where the top formed. And if you zoom in on the hourly, there's a few hourly setups that got triggered in here. I think there was one that got stopped out, and then the second one worked. Target 1 is your first H12 low. Target 2 is the range lows. And then we wipe the chart clean and we start again and we say, okay, where's our newest price action range that we're working in? It's right here. We have our bearish order block here, and it was the same thing, right? When we were trading down here, right, a lot of people were calling for lower prices, and I said, I think we bounce up to here first and then we trade down. So I have a chart. You can go on Discord, Telegram, Twitter, it's all there. I have a chart when we're right here with an arrow pointing here and then back down. And that's exactly what happened. The exact same thing that we played here, move up to the order block and down, is what we were looking for here, right? So move up to the order block, and it had 1, 2, 3, and then it finally sold off. So there was a trade in here as well. This is a little bit choppier than up here, and the range is obviously a lot smaller. As you can see here, we tested this area 3 times, but each time we tested it, we wicked into it, we closed below, and each high was a lower high. And now internally here, we have closed below these 2 lows. We have this low remaining here. So the question is, what's going to happen now? What's the most likely scenario? It looks like, potentially we're holding these lows here. This is still the range, right? Until we get a close above here or below here, we assume that it's going to continue to go sideways. The preceding trend is down. So ultimately, I think that this range resolves to the downside. But until we get a close below here or above here, I'm looking for reasons to potentially get long near the range low and get short near the range high. And it's that simple. We're near the range high here, and all 3 of these touches are above the 50% of this range. And the long opportunity from, yesterday or 2 days ago, if you wanted to long this, whenever this was, maybe 3 days ago, below the 50% of the range, right? Near the bottom. So I am unsure of the most likely next move. I'm looking for this to eventually resolve itself down into here. What is this level? This is that weekly breaker that we've had marked for months now. This area here, if this is going to continue up to here, I would like to see this be a potential higher low and then a move up to here. Because I still do think that we're this close to this, high time frame liquidity level here. We now have another level of liquidity right above here, this high. So I'm totally on board with the potential of running up to here. And then I don't know. Then maybe we make a new low. Maybe we go from here, consolidate, and then go up even higher. I don't know. I don't need to figure out that many moves in advance. I'm just trying to predict, remember, one move at a time. So while I think we resolve down here on the weekly, does not mean that we can't go up a little first or anything like that. Anything is possible. You do have to remember that while I would like to bid here, if price doesn't come there, I need to have a plan to get on board. So let's say that without touching this, price is going to trade to 32,000. Well, if it doesn't come down here, if it just does this and breaks out, am I just going to be sidelined that entire time? Of course not. So that's why trading is always that if this, then that type of mindset. And I really want you guys to build that type of thinking, that critical thinking, that logical process into your trading. If this happens, I'm going to do that. If this happens, I'm going to do that. If this, then that. Because if price is going to give us a higher low here, what if it front runs the level? Do I miss this entire leg? No, I need to have a plan where if it does not come down here, I can still get involved. And why might it not come down here? Well, if you remember, right, we have this weekly SFP here. So this could be it. This could be the higher low that's forming right here. And it could be front running myself and anyone else who's waiting for kind of a retest of this range high, because this seems like the clean retest that everyone wants, right? They're like, okay, we broke out of this range, let's retest it and then let's go. But maybe it front runs it. We do not have to go down there. I would like to bid down here, but I am aware that, hey, we have a weekly bullish SFP here. We ran all the lows of this distribution consolidation here. So there is a chance that this goes up from here. So what is my plan to get long if we don't come down to this area that I want? Well, we have our weekly SFP being this down move right here. So this would be your 12-hour bullish breaker. That same 12-hour order block that gave the short setups here. If it flips, if it fails and price breaks through, that order block becomes a breaker. That's what a breaker is. So a bullish breaker is a bearish order block. So here's your bearish order block. Ideally, a bearish order block does this. But if it fails and we get above it, well, guess what? Now it's a bullish breaker. It's the up candle before down move that took out a low, up candle before down move that took out a low, and then the reclaim makes it that bullish breaker. As long as it's doing its job as a bearish order block, it's a bearish order block. But if we get above there, this all of a sudden becomes the 12-hour bullish breaker that generated that weekly SFP. So just like I said, I want a long down here, let's say. If we do not come down here, but we flip this, guess what? I'm going to be looking for longs up into here and then up towards 32K and potentially even higher. So that's my if this then plan for the long side. If we do not get the deep pullback that I want, I need to have a plan to still get on board and get some long exposure. I don't want to be sitting on my ass being like, well, my bids are here and price fucking goes to 32K and I haven't longed it or touched it, right? And I've completely missed the move. That's what we don't want. So I'll be waiting to see. This is a very clear level, and this is also our 12-hour range, remember, right here. So if we're able to get above this, shift structure on the H12 back to bullish, right? So we come up here, retest, boom. This is absolutely a long I'd be interested in taking. But until we get above here, my bias remains for a potential move to the downside towards that weekly breaker, which is down here. Now, another thing to watch, right, is we have this 12-hour range. We can trade up here above this and then still go down. We could SFP this range high and then trade right back down to the low. So the long plan, I think, would be contingent on first we got to get above the breaker, but I would probably want to see a 12-hour close above this swing high. And then I'd be looking to long the pullback because that's going to tell me that the market structure is shifting and we're probably going to see expansion from that weekly SFP towards higher prices. Okay, so bullish scenario if we don't get that deep pullback, because if we come back to that weekly breaker, I'm long biased. In that big gray box I had, I'm looking for reasons to long down there. But if we do not come that low, the other scenarios where I'd look to long is this becoming a bullish breaker and maybe a bullish market structure shift here, or a sweep of this local low. So we have this low here, we have another low right here. We do this, but then reclaim this low. If we come break below this range and then get right back in it, guess what? I'm getting rid of my stink beds here, and I'm looking to play this like Monday's range or any other range play, right? You have your levels, comes to the top, deviates back in, down to the bottom, deviates below, back in. On the short side, there's your deviation, there's your trigger, stop there. Deviation, stop, trigger. Same thing here. So if we run these lows, because you have kind of relatively equal lows now, and then sweep or just reclaim the range low quickly, I will look to long and I will not worry about trying to get filled lower, right? Because then maybe if it does go down, then great. I can long back where I wanted to, but I'm not going to ignore a potential range trade setup from here back towards the range high. The other scenario, this becomes a 12-hour bullish breaker. On the short side, right now, we've seen the rejections from this order block right here already. Now we have within the range, we have a 12-hour break in market structure right here. We're still within this larger 12-hour down leg, but this could be a clue that the 12-hour wants to continue down. So I had marked out and I posted this on Discord and Telegram and all the other fucking places I'm at. We have a breaker right here, and I had that mapped in advance, and I posted this when we were trading down here. I said, hey, I think we trade up into this breaker now. It's the down candle or the up move that took out a high, then we broke the other way. So for the short scenarios, the first one, we're in the area of interest right now. I want to see potential weakness within this gray box. We have an SFP. The market structure break level is way over here. You could argue if we MSB below here, that would be enough to get short. Or maybe we run this high, put in a low, boom, and then we have our trigger. Something like this. I don't know. But this gray box could be an area where the next lower high could form. Just like this gray box here was the area lower high could form. Just like this box was the area where the lower high might form. You can blindly short here and put your stop up here and hope you're right. But as you guys know, the way I like to do it is I mark out the area and then I use the low time frame to try and see if the low time frame is shifting in favor of this move and that this area is actually getting respected. So that's all we're doing here. If we get a bearish setup on the low time frame within this gray box, I will look to short it down into these lows at least, and then hopefully deep into this weekly breaker. Now, the other short option, I don't know if we run this, I don't know if we just go up from here, but the other short scenario would be a failure of this high. So a move up above the range high and then back in would be a short setup for me. The exact same as a move below the range low and back in would be a long setup for me. Exact same. So I've now given you 4 different scenarios, 2 for the long side, 2 for the short side. And I know that a lot of people, especially the smooth-brained apes on Twitter, will go, oh, so it's going up or down. Oh, so you have an arrow in every direction and you can't be wrong. That just tells me that those people do not understand the logic behind what I am saying. It's not up or down. It's if X happens, I do Y. If A happens, I do B. If C happens, I do D. If, I clearly don't know my fucking alphabet. If E happens, I do F. Okay? So there's 4 different separate scenarios, 2 for the longs, 2 for the shorts, but they each have very specific things that need to happen. And if those things don't happen, I don't take the trade. If we come up here, it doesn't mean I just short. If we get above this high, I don't just short, assuming we're gonna dump back inside. I need to see that low time frame price action show me what I wanna see, just like I saw in here. Or on the Ethereum short that I took and I shared with you guys. The same thing, right? So anyone who thinks that I'm like, well, you're mapping out every scenario and of course one of them is going to be right, they have a fundamental misunderstanding of the logic behind what I try to do. There's very specific parameters of what I need to see happen for me to get involved in the trade. Not just weakness in here. I need to see a setup form where I have a stop that makes sense. If we have a setup form, right? You guys know I love this, right? But if I'm entering here and my stop has to be way down here, what if my target is only here? Guess what? Even though all those boxes were ticked in terms of the bias, the entry trigger, you know where the idea is wrong, part of your checklist, right? So you're checking off all your shit. One of the items on your checklist is risk reward. I aim for a minimum of 2 reward to 1 risk. So if the risk reward based on the stop super far away is shit, well, this doesn't get checked off and then there's no trade, right? So that's part of it as well. It's not just blindly aping at any level. There's specific things that you look for. So I like to give you guys multiple scenarios because if you've been watching my streams for a long time, you understand how I think now and you know what I mean when I say, hey, I'm looking for weakness here. No different than this. This weekly block is huge. So let's say you just long the weekly breaker and your stop goes below the SFP low. How high does price have to go? Because this is valid based on the weekly, but how high does price have to go for the RR to get good? So price could go all the way to 40K and it's 2.5R. I'm not saying you can't take this trade, but are you really going to take a trade where your stop is 20% away from your entry? Maybe, but that means your target needs to be at least 40% away from your entry for the risk reward to even make sense. And based on this being a weekly zone, this could take months to play out. We could come down here. You could be in drawdown for weeks, for months, and then eventually you were right. And 3 to 4 months have gone by. You were underwater for half of that time just to make 2.5R. I think a much more efficient and better way to trade is to say, okay, well, my bias is I think that if price comes in this gray box, there's a good chance that we get a bullish reaction. So if I know that, then on the lower time frames of the weekly, so the 12-hour, etc., if I get a trigger where it does one of these in here, now all of a sudden my entry is here, my stop is here, and now let's go to that same profit target of 40,000. Is that not a much better trade? Less drawdown, less time in the trade. So that's the whole thought process behind what I do is you're doing this top-down analysis and you're just scoping in on an area of price where you have a clear bias, you have a defined draw, higher or lower. Are we going up or down from that area? So if I think that we bounce from here, okay, bullish bias, clear draw on price, now you're ticking those boxes off and you get that lower time frame setup. Now the RR box gets ticked off, right? So the up or down bros, those smooth brained apes, those single digit IQ guys, the reply guys on Twitter, I personally think I've gotten a lot better at just not acknowledging them at all. I'm so swift with the block button these days. If anyone says anything remotely rude or mean to me, just instant block. And it's not because I'm soft. It's not because I have nothing to gain from having some fucking argument with a nobody on Twitter, and I have everything to lose. They want the attention. They want the engagement. I have a lot of followers. I just end up looking dumb no matter what. And I'm petty. It's hard for me, but my life is way better when I just insta block those people, because the people that follow me care about what I have to say, enjoy watching my streams, find value in what I share and what I do. Those are the people I would like to give my energy and my time to, not the trolls. So Ethereum, we shorted up here, or at least I shorted, but I posted a short in Telegram at like 1970 on Ethereum. This move up here above the high. We got the move above the high into this 12-hour fair value gap. I posted the short way over here. We had our trigger. We had multiple entries along the way as well. Now we're into this new, kind of down leg here. I'm going to delete all of this for now. Same as Bitcoin, right? But ETH looks a little bit more bullish because we have this SFP here. We have this SFP here, whereas Bitcoin broke market structure there. ETH held this low. We did break this low here. So similar to Bitcoin now, on Ethereum, I'm watching, this breaker zone here. I know it's a big gray box and everyone's going to say, box is fucking huge, you idiot. But I'm not shorting this. I'm just waiting to see if we get any signs of weakness, right? Because this is a little bit tricky, to be honest with you, because we have this SFP and we have this run of the high as well. So you could argue on Ethereum, if we flip this here into a bullish breaker, I think that's a big time long. So if we're able to get above here, above 1880, back above 1900, and then we retest this as a breaker, I think that's a big time long targeting much higher prices on Ethereum, 2050, 2100 and beyond. So that would be the bullish kind of idea on Ethereum. But for now, I'm waiting to see how price reacts within this zone that it's in right now, because we did have an internal MSB right here. This is still a down leg. So I want to see if it gets any signs of weakness here. Just like on Bitcoin, I want to see if there's any signs of weakness here. I'm not just blindly shorting. And if we get above this area, just like if we get above this area on Bitcoin, I become quite bullish. If you longed down here, I would just hold it unless we get some sort of rejection, a run above one of these highs and a rejection, or a low time frame, weakness, then sure, close your longs. But if you long this sweep on Ethereum or below this low here on Bitcoin, I think you have a very clear invalidation. You have the dollar up into resistance, and you have the stock market going in your direction as well, that you probably are better off holding those good entries and waiting and seeing. NASDAQ has been mooning. So one of the things that is obviously giving me pause about Bitcoin going lower is look at this weekly candle on the NASDAQ. Looking at this chart with nothing on it, my eyes immediately get drawn to right here as okay, well, we just ran this high. Any sort of market structure that was bearish within this entire consolidation here has been broken. We had an insanely bullish weekly close. This seems like the most obvious draw here. We have these relatively equal highs, and then we have a bearish order block right above them. That just seems like where price wants to go. Fuck, it looks like it could go to a new all-time high. Obviously, this basket is being carried by a few big names, right? In the tech space, we saw what Nvidia did, blowing out their earnings. I think they added the entire market cap of Ethereum just in a single day. So yeah, this seems insanely bullish. What happened to this massive recession we're supposed to be going through? I think this is just a good, example that the stock market does not represent the actual state of the economy, because the economy is still not doing that well in the US, but it is what it is. This looks uber fucking bullish. If I'm looking at this chart, I don't even know. Do we even come back and give you this nice juicy retest? Probably not. Maybe much more likely that we get a shallow retest back into here, but any sort of dip on this I feel is a long towards here. And same with ES. Is this a clue for what's going to happen on ES? If you look at these charts side by side on the weekly, does this not look like you have this consolidation here, right? You have this consolidation here. Is this a clue as to what is to come for ES? We're already back above 4,200, but we start holding above 4,200, right? That's relative to the chart I'm looking at, obviously. But if we start holding above here, where we're at right now and where we've rejected so many times in the last, year and a half plus, I don't see how this doesn't trade at least to this high, but maybe just like NQ, right? We have similar highs here. And if this happens on ES, if we get a big green dildo like NQ had, I would assume Bitcoin is going to get pulled up with the rest of the market. So this gives me pause on bearishness on crypto, is just how strong these markets look. It doesn't make any sense to me why they're this strong, but don't fight the trend, right? You can think that everything should go to zero. I think Bitcoin should go to 10K because Ben Eth raised $6 million for absolutely nothing as a US citizen who on Twitter publicly was getting called out for not being able to pay child support. Is just a scumbag. He raised $6 million for nothing. So clearly a bunch of you idiots still have too much money. So for those reasons, I think, yeah, the whole market should go to zero immediately. Absolutely. Way too many idiots still have money. But if the market is bullish, if we're making higher highs and higher lows, no matter how much I think it should go down, I'm not going to fight the trend, right? Don't step in front of a moving train. Also, we have the dollar, right? So we called this move on the dollar precisely. The precision in this call, the preciseness was precise. We ran February's low, and I said immediately bounce up to this order block at least. And now we're up into that area. Again, this is a down leg. Here's your range. We ran an old low over here while putting in this first leg down. We had an SFP here. You have your order block. I'm looking for a potential lower high here, but it doesn't mean I can't be bullish up into that lower high. It's exactly what we're seeing here. This is bread and butter setup that I show you guys. So now this is the area where I'm looking for weakness, because if the dollar's going to put in a lower high relative to this one, this is where it could happen. Doesn't Doesn't have to. It can go higher. But this is an area where the lower high could happen, so I'm watching for that. And if this is going to roll over, guess what? Equities up, gold up, silver up, Bitcoin up, EU up, GU up. There's a lot of moving parts right now, a lot of things to pay attention to, a lot of things kind of on the precipice of potentially ripping or dropping, which means hopefully we get some better trading conditions for, the summer here. I would love just sideways, no volatility, so I can just be outside and not have to look at the charts, but usually that doesn't happen with crypto. Okay, so something to consider for sure. Oh my God, my chest is sore. Oh my God, I'm ruined. Anyways, yo guys, what is going on? It is your boy, Miami Maine, back from Miami. That was a grind and I just had brain fog. I was feeling like shit. I was exhausted. So hopefully we get some better trading conditions going into June, or maybe we should go outside and touch some grass and enjoy summer. I don't know. So we got to pump those numbers up, kids. Spectacular. What coin you guys think blowing up next? That's not what we do here. We ain't altcoin shills, brother. Maine, how much Molly have you been taking? I don't know what you're talking about. I wasn't taking any Molly. Definitely not. I don't do drugs. Drugs are bad. Hey, don't do drugs. Save yourself for marriage. Don't drink alcohol. When are you going to be back on the No Instructions Needed podcast? I'm going to sound like an asshole because clearly I was on this podcast. I don't fucking remember being on it or what it is. So you'll have to re-invite me. Refresh my memory. The editor is legit. Still swole as fuck. Don't you worry. Anyone know how to make the trend line magnetize horizontal? You just press shift and then it makes it horizontal. See, look at me teaching people TradingView now. Enjoy the weekend. Go outside, touch some grass. And yeah, we're going to get some killer trades going coming up very soon. I feel it in my plums. Precisely. The precision, the preciseness was precise. Precise.